Known to Outlander viewers as Castle Leoch, seen as Winterfell in the pilot episode of Game of Thrones, and gleefully claimed by Monty Python and the Holy Grail as one of its most memorable locations. Doune Castle stands with that rare kind of fame that belongs both to history and imagination. Set above a bend of the River Teith in Stirlingshire, it seems at first glance like the very model of a medieval stronghold. Stern curtain walls, a towering gatehouse and high windows looking out across the old Scottish landscape. Yet Doune is more than a dramatic backdrop. It is one of the best preserved late medieval castles in Scotland, a place where noble ambition, royal politics and the long afterlife of stone still meet. The castle as it stands today was built in the late 14th century, most likely by Robert Stewart, Duke of Albany, who was son of King Robert II. Albany was one of the most powerful men in Scotland, especially during the later years of his brother King Robert III, whose weakness left much of the kingdom's authority in Albany's hands. When James I was still a captive in England, Albany effectively governed Scotland, and Doune can be read as an expression of that power. Not merely a fortress, but a residence, designed to impress, administer, and receive guests with aristocratic splendour. Although parts of the original scheme may never have been completed, what survives is exceptionally grand. Its architecture tells that story vividly. The great gatehouse, rising nearly 100 feet, combines defence with display, announcing strength while also serving as an imposing ceremonial entrance. Beyond it lies the Lord's Hall, one of the finest of its kind in Scotland, lofty and elegant, where feasting, judgment and lordship were all performed beneath a timber roof. Nearby were the kitchens, busy with the labour of a great household, and above them chambers intended for comfort as much as for status. A musician gallery survives as well, a lovely reminder that castles were not only built for war or watchfulness, but for hospitality, pageantry and cultivated life. Doune's design belongs to a period when the residence of a magnate had to balance security and refinement, and it does so with unusual grace. After Albany's death in 1420, Doune passed to the crown. It became a royal castle and was used by royal officials and members of the court, remaining a place of consequence even as political power shifted through 15th and 16th centuries. In 1566, Mary Queen of Scots is known to have stayed there, adding another thread to the castle's long association with the Scottish monarchy. Later, in the 16th century, James Douglas, 4th Earl of Morton and Regent of Scotland, carried out repairs and alterations keeping to preserve the building at a time when many medieval castles were falling into decay or being transformed beyond recognition. Doune did not withdraw quietly into picturesque old age. In the 17th century, it was caught, as so many Scottish strongholds were, in the conflict of the Wars of the Three Kingdoms. Troops were stationed there, and the castle's defensive qualities still mattered in an age of civil strife. Then, during the Jacobite risings of 1745, it was occupied by Jacobite forces under Bonnie Prince Charlie. Government prisoners were held within its walls, and Doune once again became part of a national struggle over loyalty, dynasty, and the fate of Britain. Even in the late chapter, the old fortress proved it could still serve history, not merely remember it. What makes Doune so moving is the way it preserves both grandeur and intimacy. Many castles survive as fragments, but Doune still offers halls you can imagine filled, stairways that seem only just emptied, windows that still frame the same hills and light their buildings new. Its stone is warm in colour, almost golden in certain weather, and this softens the severity of its military outline. The result is a castle that feels less like a relic than a pause in time. A place where ambitions of Albany, the presence of queens and regents, the anxieties of war, and the playful borrowing of modern film and television all gather without quietly disturbing one another. So Doune Castle remains a place of double enchantment. Popular culture has given it fresh masks to wear, but beneath them the true face endures. A masterpiece of late medieval Scottish architecture, born from dynastic power, carried through royal ownership and political upheaval, and still standing with grave beauty above the Teith. In its chambers and courtyards, history does not feel distant. It feels close enough to hear, like music once played in the gallery, lingering long after the players have gone.